this year, 24 women have been killed and 5 children have been killed by domestic and family violence. You want to end this violence in a generation. Clearly the status quo isn't working. Is that goal still achievable?
Well, it isn't working. That's the truth. You know, we are not doing well enough as a society. This is a whole of society problem. Governments can take action, but it's a whole of society problem. We need men as well to have conversations with each other, to call it out when they see unacceptable behaviour, to address it and have those conversations. One of the things that we need to address is the issue of perpetrators. We need to deal with that. The other thing that we need to do, and this is something that I'm proud of and has bipartisan support, one of the reasons why the social media ban is important is that young people at a very young age, when they're developing, are exposed to some pretty hateful stuff out there. The rise of misogyny connecting up. I don't know if you've seen Adolescence. I encourage anyone to have a look at it. It's scary. It's scary. These parents depicted not knowing what their young son, who they love, has engaged in. And there's a scene towards the end there where the father, who's brilliant, helped write the show, says, "We thought he was safe. He was in his bedroom. We thought he was safe." Well, it's had tragic impact for him, but a worse impact for his victim. And so this is something we need to have conversations about. It's something that government needs to be determined front and centre, and we just need to do better right across the board. But we know as well the practical support, practical difference that these two organisations here are making in the lives of women and children on the coast here deserves applause. This isn't a day for, with respect, not a day for congratulating the government. This is a day for congratulating these people who work on the front line, the people downstairs who, it's a tough job dealing in this sector. I admire, they're largely women, but not exclusively, who work in this sector as well. Hang on, Andrew. We'll just go and then we'll... Remember the drill, Sarah. If you yell out, you don't get the next one.
Prime Minister, do younger Australians have a reason to be resentful given the cost of housing and both sides of politics refusing to move on tax breaks like negative gearing? And secondly, because you raised Adolescence, and it is a very powerful bit of television. Keir Starmer suggested that all British school students watch that. In fact, I think he's funding it. Would you fund every Australian student to watch Adolescence?
Well, I think, I'm not sure it needs funding, more funding for Netflix, to be frank, but I would encourage schools to show it. Absolutely I would. So important. And young people aren't getting a fair crack. That's why we're going to give a 20% cut in student debt. It's one of the things that's at stake this Saturday. Labor giving 3 million Australians, largely young Australians, $5,500 off their debt, and a coalition saying, nah, we're not going to give that.
On housing, negative gearing, the reasons for young Australians being resentful.
Well, supply is the key. The Housing Australia Future Fund is the key. The sort of support that we're having here, that this organisation does in increasing social housing, but also affordable housing for rentals, is important. We need real solutions. That's what my government is working on. And I'll tell you what, the holding up of housing programs, whether it be to buy, whether it be to rent through our Build to Rent program, or whether it be social housing, that occurred in the Senate last time around. I make this point. We've talked downstairs with the housing provider here about the Housing Australia Future Fund. That was a clear commitment that we gave at the last election. Like I gave when opposition leaders gave fully costed funding announcements and went to national press clubs and addressed them. I gave that in my second budget reply. It was 2 years before the election, costed a clear plan, including money for emergency housing for women and children escaping domestic violence, and the Senate held it up. I make this point. They need to get out of the way in the next parliament if they're serious about housing.